Hey there, folks. Sure, Michael Phelps has a bunch of Olympic medals, but he only got his for swimming. So we ain't impressed because our guest today has medals in several different disciplines and in summer and winter games. So take that, Phelps. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Avi and TJ Ropes. This is, I'm excited. Our guest today is someone I want more people to know.
Exactly. Oksana Masters. She is the most decorated winter Paralympian of all time. And it's funny you mentioned Phelps because I was looking up the many articles that have been written about her, and they said she dominates sports to a Phelpsian degree.
Oh, wow.
That is exactly how they described her because, yes, she's a multi-sport athlete. You don't see that when you look up Olympic athletes.
At this level? No.
No, because you have to be focused singularly on what you do and do it the best, better than everyone else, correct? But no, she has multiple sports, and I love summer and winter Olympics. Are you kidding me right now?
It's impossible. But,
how do you do that?
And if you're not impressed enough already, just before we came on to record this episode, we were just chatting with her before we bring her in. And she told us she just went for a recovery ride for an hour and 45 minutes.
Just an easy bike ride, an hour and 45 minutes. That's basically the equivalent of running a half marathon.
Yes. Well, for us.
For us. For Olympians, not so much, but for us.
Let's please say hello to Oksana Masters. Dear lady, thank you so much for being here, and explain to people like you explained to us. Why is it an hour and 45 minutes cycling for you just a cool down, a recovery ride? Explain that.
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for the extremely generous and kind intro. Oh my gosh. I have never been compared to a Phelpsian-esque comparison at all. That was so funny. Also, you guys are runners. You guys run. I have 3 wheels and gears and stuff like that. So there's a big difference doing an hour 45 cool down to running for an hour and 45 for sure. But because it's an hour 45 cool down, my races can vary. The time trial is between, it can be a 5-mile race to about a 16-mile race, all out, you and the clock, no drafting. But a road race and pack racing, like the one coming up in Paris, is 71 kilometers long. So it's going to take a while. So it's just about double of a marathon. So because we'll be racing for 3 hours on the bike, it's just putting in that sweat equity in that time.
Yes, that's a lot of endurance that you have to prepare for. So we mentioned you have competed in para rowing, para biathlon, para Nordic skiing, para cycling. I can't even keep it straight. And you've been competing in the Paralympics since 2012. What are the specific events, or I should even say sports, that you're competing in for the Paris Paralympics?
For the Paris Paralympics, I'm getting old. It's just cycling. I'm sticking to 2 events only and doing that. And in cycling, the road events, so the time trial and the road race. And yeah, and then in 2 years from now is the Milan 2026 games. So I'd be lying if I'm not training for Paris going into it with literally, I already checked out the gym, and the minute my events start, I'm going to transition to the winter side of cross-country skiing. But yeah, it's just those 2 events, and it's going to be honestly really challenging because in the US, cycling is such an underrepresented sport, and the resources for it isn't as equal as my European competitors, where endurance sports and cycling is the Olympic level of their team. They put the same resources and investments in as to their paracycling team too. So it's going to be really interesting but fun, and I'm hoping to put cycling more on a map for the US, especially for LA coming up.
Why isn't it there yet? Why are the European countries so better or making more of an investment? And has it been getting better over the years, or we still got a long way to go here?
Oh, in the US, I mean, it's gotten so much better for parasport in general. There's still so much that can be done, and it's very easy, simple things like you guys allow me to share my journey and my sports with you and letting the world hear that, because that's something that we can get better on and hear more stories of incredible Paralympic athletes. That I have a lot of teammates who are gold medalists and are world record holders, but you don't hear it because it's not the culture within our country for endurance sports besides the marathon, really. And but like the viewership is getting so much better. The sponsorship opportunities are so much better for parasports than it was in 2012 when I was an athlete. But in Europe in general, like cycling is just a way of life, and endurance sports in general are just more like, it's so cool racing in Europe because in cycling, when you're a world champion, you get the rainbow striped jerseys. In the US, if I'm out riding or walk in or something with my rainbow striped jersey here, no one understands what that is. But we were at a hotel in Belgium, and just this regular old couple were like, they see the jersey and they're saying something in whatever language that what they were speaking in. And they're like, oh, champion, because they recognized, because it was so universal.
Wow.
Oksana, you should walk around with your 17 Paralympic medals, and then they would know you have 7 gold, 7 silver, and 3 bronze. I bet you'd get some attention.
I don't know about that. I just want to help inspire the next generation of young girls specifically to see all the different sports and to not limit yourself to try just one from a young age. Try them all until you find that one that you love.
Which one?
And if that means you have like 17 medals along the way, then go for it.
Which one is your favorite event?
Oh, that's so tough because it's like, which one's your favorite child?
My mom could tell you which one's her favorite child.
It's not you.
No, he's like, it's me.
She knows me already. Thank you.
Yeah. I would say probably rowing, to be honest. It's the one I don't compete in now, but it's that sport. It's like that first one, my first games. A lot of people don't know I tried to actually make the Paralympic team in 2008 when I found out about the Paralympics. And I didn't make it in rowing in that. And it was that moment where I did not make that team. In rowing is when I realized how badly I really wanted this and how much more it meant to me than just representing Team USA and going to the Paralympics. But you have also better tan lines in rowing than cycling. And in skiing, there's no tan lines. You just look deathly pale.
That's
white.
so funny. I love that. I love that you even went there. That's great. You know, I want to bring people up on your story. It is, you say you want to be an inspiration. I mean, you just read the first few sentences of what your early childhood was like, and it's mind-blowing that you are where you are and you're doing what you're doing. You were born in Ukraine, and you were born with multiple congenital disabilities, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it wasn't actually until I was adopted when I was almost 8 and went to my first dentist in America where they took x-rays of my teeth and they saw radiation, signs of radiation in my adult teeth. And so linking it to where I was and the path of Chernobyl and the nuclear power plant leak that went off there, even though it was 2 years prior from when I was born, or 3 years.
Wow.
Like, the radiation levels rise even higher throughout the years, even more so than what it was the first explosion of it. Also, my village where I lived in one of the orphanages had an active nuclear power plant that would also leak frequently. And so when so they just concluded because of my birth defects were everywhere. They were in my teeth, my organs, my hands. I don't have a bicep on my right side. So if I'm not focusing, I will veer off to the left because I just have to have that much more focus on it. And in utero deformities or birth defects, it's the only reason what that explains for all of my body having a little bit of an impact in the developing stages, where if it was just like, oftentimes it's either one side of the body that has an impairment, like a left and a right, or it's very specific limbs. but to have organs and to have enamel stripped from my teeth when inside, like that's the only thing I can do it before birth is radiation. And I'm just so bummed because when I found out about how I got to be born with all these disabilities or this deformities, I'm like, why couldn't I be like Hulk? Like he gets that all that stuff, but I have this thing where my hair won't curl. Like that's not cool.
But I mean, it is remarkable. And I love that you can look at it with humor because that is sometimes the best medicine of all, dealing with everything you've dealt with. But this is all from the aftermath of Chernobyl. I mean, it's crazy. But you had your legs were different lengths, correct? And you had no thumbs. Each hand had webbed fingers. Each foot had 6 toes. I mean, and your biological parents.
I was so proud of that 6 toes. I should have stuck to swimming. I was born with webbed toes and webbed feet. Don't know why I didn't get it.
That is true.
Yes, that would be helpful, I'm sure. You'd probably, you'd get in trouble because you just had an advantage over everyone else.
Yeah, then watch out, Michael Phelps.
Right, and then you really could do it. But your biological parents left you at an orphanage, correct?
Yeah, and before I really realized, I had the adult understanding of why one would do that, especially to the orphanages that I was left in. I was so angry at them because I could not understand why somebody would do that. And my mom, who adopted me, is so kind, so loving, and always gave them the benefit of the doubt. And she was correct. Everything that she told me was growing up is I'm sure they loved you and it was the hardest decision they had to make, that they just didn't have the resources to provide with all the things that you were going to need to be healthy. And later on, that's what I found out was one of the reasons is the government just basically eventually just told them like she died to stop trying, like they did not want to give me away. And the government just said, well, she died. So they just relinquished me. Little did they know, I actually did not die.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'm too stubborn for that, I think, to die. And I lived my first years in 3 different orphanages. And the way it works is you go into like from birth to 2, you're in one orphanage. And then from 2 to 5, you're in like a baby home. And then 5 years old, you're considered an adult. So you move into the adult orphanage with other kids that are also up to 15. At 15 for females, 16 for men. And if you're not adopted by then, you're just put out on the street. Or a lot of the men go into military.
Did you ever have a follow-up or connect with your birth parents afterwards? Do you have any idea where they are or what happened to them?
I do. So I do now through more. I found out I have 2 biological brothers, which is so crazy. Because when I had the opportunity to go to the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv for a diplomatic reason in 2015, because at that time it was around the 25th anniversary of the ADA Act. And also because in 2014, not to get political and bring it up, but right at like between the Sochi Olympic and Paralympic Games, Russia invaded Ukraine. And a lot of the military men were coming back with amputations and all these injuries. So it's kind of like a twofold. I went back there because of the anniversary of the ADA Act here in America and how to make society more accessible for civilians, but also for the servicemen and women who are fighting to protect their freedom, and to show what's possible through prosthetics, through wheelchairs. Little did I know I'd have to climb up 4 flights of stairs to get up to where these people are in their hospital, which was wild. Wow. And then I also went there because this is kind of like a short story I'm just making very long now at this point. I'm so sorry. But I also went there because Ukraine's trying to get rid of government-ran orphanages. And there's 2 different ones. There's local orphanages, and then there's government-ran orphanages. And the government ones are where all the corruption happens and the mistreatment happens. And that's where I was from birth. they're trying to turn it more into foster care and to provide these homes where kids can understand and grow up with a homely environment instead of an institutionalized environment. And so that was kind of strange. But because I was there, um, I literally, my birth parents found out I was alive. I was there. I did not get to meet them there. I wasn't ready for that. But I do want to one day, I want to meet them so bad.
Oh, wow.
So I do want to ask them, where did I get this awful hairline from? Who is it from and why? Would you pass that on to me out of all the things you could? But yeah, like I'm in communication with my two biological brothers right now, and that's the hardest thing, to be honest, is with what's going on right now, with Ukraine, is just like I have a dream that can only come true in Ukraine, and I really hope one day there is a Ukraine to go back to, to meet, to know where I'm from, and just get to know this identity I've always had a question mark that, yeah, so I just hopefully that will happen. But yeah.
Well, that is, I wasn't expecting that story, but how long?
I'm so sorry.
No. What I'm saying, it was, I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting to hear when given all you've gone through, what you would feel about your birth parents. And to hear you now, it sounds like you had to get to a place, but how long did it take in life? What age were you before some of that anger you even talked about started to maybe subside and you didn't hold a grudge against them?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I'd be lying if I say I didn't have a little bit of anger now, but it's not to them. It's just, it's just that, and I get this a lot. A lot of people are like, how are you so proud to be Ukrainian? Why do you still love a country and so proud and wear the Ukrainian flag when you have all these horrible memories? And yes, I do, but that wasn't the country it wasn't Ukraine. It was just a few bad eggs. They're everywhere. They're within our families. They're within our communities. There's a few bad eggs, and I could choose to let those few bad eggs determine how I view where I come from and my identity, that's my identity. I'm very proud to be Ukrainian. I have really good memories, but I don't know. Like, it was sports for me is what helped me process that, and rowing. And every time I had to process and understand, like, what happened to me was not okay. And I think it just, one of those things that, like, a little bit of anger is going to always be there, but not to them specifically. Just a little bit of like, why do people have to do this to young kids, powerless kids without voices? And then when I released my memoir, I got an overflooding amount of messages from kids in Ukrainian orphanages, but orphanage in general, like, too, that said, oh my gosh, I went through the exact same thing. Literally, and they were just getting adopted or their new lives somehow. And this is just within like 3-4 years. So that's the anger that I have more, is that this is still happening. It hasn't changed.
The abuse of young children in these institutionalized orphanages.
Exactly. Yeah. And, it is hard because I can be angry about my disability, about my hands, about my legs. But I think the hardest thing for me that I had to overcome was the scars on my body that's not resulted from my disability. It's a scar that a story's been written for me. I never got to choose how I got it, where it was placed, or why. And that's when I think about the anger, like, that's just what it has. But then, like, for me, the power of sport just really helped me process it. I had to heal physically with my new amputations and everything else, but it helped me heal mentally and emotionally in ways I had no idea that I truly needed. And it was a way, like, when you're a kid, I got into rowing when I was 13. A lot of my memories I was suppressing around 16 to 20, they were all flooding back. That's so true. Like, where you can only put a box and tie it up, and you just get a bigger rubber band around it and put more tape on it. Eventually that box is going to explode. It's a matter of time. It's not sustainable. And I had sport in my life when everything inside just exploded and went off. And it gave me a path and a direction and a way to be able to express and scream. I always say, like, a way to scream without needing to physically scream and process when I didn't have the words to like explain and talk to someone of what I'm feeling. And I think in that way, because sports became such a healing tool, not I want to be an Olympian, Paralympic athlete, I want to have a gold medal. It was my escape and I loved it so much. And that became a secret weapon in a way now heading into my seventh Paralympic Games is that love for sport, not just that love for winning.
That's incredible. Yes, sports, you're forced to be in the moment. How did you, I'm curious, just with all of the just issues stacked against you physically, and then you said you had amputations. I believe you had both of your legs amputated. What made you think, I know, I'll get into sports? How were you led in that direction? That would be, a lot of people would think the last thing they thought they could do, but you did it. How did it happen?
It was the last thing I thought I could do too, actually. I had no idea that I could be an athlete. I was always active as a kid. I was always climbing on things, getting in trouble, and just loved moving my body. And so my legs, literally, I was missing the main weight-bearing bone, and I had double of the non-weight-bearing bone. But it looked like a salt shaker was, when you look at the X-ray of the bone, a salt shaker was just sprinkled across. So the bone itself wasn't formed correctly at all. And I taught myself how to walk to be able to get around in the orphanage to just survival instinct. But because I was so malnourished, it hurt, but it wasn't affecting me to the point where when I came to America and I grew about, I think like 11 inches within the first 2 months, which is a lot just based on food alone. And
Wow.
the weight couldn't sustain that. So I had to have them amputated above the knee, which in itself is very different than being a below the knee amputee. Like missing every joint you're missing, it just makes it that much harder. And so, of course, when I was 9 and then 14, when I had my second leg amputated, I was thinking about, I'll never have my knee pop kiss now. And that's where, like, like in those movies and stuff, you're just like, the knee pops up in Anne Hathaway and Princess Diaries. I was never going to have that moment to do that. Like, yeah, well, okay, now I just got totally distracted from what your original question was based on that.
Well, it was based on after, you're having amputations, and how do you then think, I know, I'll be an athlete? I mean, where does that come from?
I think I did not think I was going to be an athlete. It was right before my second amputation. I was rowing and I was introduced to rowing. My mom got me involved with ice skating when we lived in Buffalo, New York. And it was more so to learn the language, make some friends, get stronger. And then when we moved to Kentucky, I tried rowing, and that was my mom too. She's very persistent. We could not be more opposite. She's not athletic. She does not want to sweat. She's more of a homebody who loves reading, which I'm starting to appreciate reading now, but I just wanted to be active. But she did say, just go out and try rowing. We don't ever have to go back there if you don't like it. And I did. It did take some persuasion from finding out there was a cute boy that was volunteering there in my middle school. So I was like, okay, I'll try.
There it is. Always comes back to some cute boy.
But then when I was in that hospital, having gone through my second amputation, it was that moment where they promised to amputate below the knee. They ended up amputating above the knee. And so when I woke up and I saw both of my legs gone above the knee, it was also a last minute decision. They didn't leave enough skin to close up the incision. So it resulted, in addition to the epidural shifting and numbing the wrong leg as well, it resulted in 6 months stay followed by more months after that. Wow. And it was that moment where the first time I had to be still in my life. And I remember just looking at the tree and just like, I never want to be in this moment again. I want to move. The minute I can get out of here, I'm going to move. And I thought about rowing, getting back on that water. And that's the only thing I really thought about to get me through that. but I wasn't thinking about it to be an athlete at that point. Like, I just wanted to row. I just wanted to be outside and feel that breeze in my face and to not ever be still in a bed. And I think that moment of being an athlete kind of came when not making the Paralympic team in 2008 and making the choice to go and try and make it for London in rowing in 2012, moving away from home and spending that whole winter on my own, training with my rowing partner, Rob Jones. That's where I think I want to be an athlete and represent Team USA and do it for something so much bigger than just the love of my rowing sport.
Can you help folks for a second? We think about Paralympians or people who are disabled, have differently abled, or however folks often want to say it, and they often lead with that. Like that's the first thing that they want to ask about, or they sometimes see, or oftentimes it feels like that's the thing that will define someone who has that is differently abled. But it was cool on your website, the About You page. The first thing you say about yourself: I'm a coffee drinker, animal lover, and world traveler. And so when we started this podcast with you at the top, we didn't even get into the fact that you were born with this defect or that. And how does that, and how are you an ambassador in that way, or what advice even would you give to people who might come in contact or end up face to face with you and they don't know what to say or what to ask about or how to treat you, that kind of a thing? I think that's always still that thing for some people that are uncomfortable and don't know how to handle the moment.
That's 100% true. Like, I think when I see people like literally staring so hard, but they don't want to turn their head to stare, so they're just choosing they think they're so subtle by staring their eyeballs to the point they're about to pop out. Guess what, guys? I can still notice that. It's okay. Just go on and look. Yeah. I would look too if somebody with bionic legs is walking by, and I don't see that every single day. I'd be like, what's going on here? Like, don't try and hide it and act like you don't see that. Like, it's okay to be curious. Also, it's okay for kids to be curious and ask questions. And, I was one time in the bathroom, and this little girl, gosh, she's just so cute. And she was so curious. And she had to have been like 4 or 5. And she's like, what's wrong with her legs? And she's just screaming. And the mom's just feeling mortified. And she's like, just stop. Shh, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And that's wrong. She's like, but why? And she kept saying, but why? What's wrong with her? Like, what's wrong? Where are her legs? Mm-hmm. And I've had her parents where they're like, these aren't cool, right? I bet she can run really fast, or this allows her to walk probably better. I'm sure we can ask. That is a great way to like, hey, would you mind? And it's okay to do that. Every person's going to be different. I'm very open to it. I would not be showing my legs. And I'm at the point now where I do show my legs. I didn't always. It's okay to ask questions. And for those young kids, allow them to be curious, because they're just so genuinely, authentically wondering, what is this? They'll probably think, like, when they see me in my sit ski or my hand cycle, they're like, oh my God, that was like a rocket. They just see, like, they're so pure and curious and genuine and just genuine. For individuals, though, what is so hard is when I'm at a gas station getting gas or buying toothpaste and deodorant, those things that no one likes to buy, but we have to, those little small things. Like, I don't want to hear I'm inspiring for those reasons, because I'm choosing to be out there, living my life, getting gas, buying toilet paper. Like, because my fiance is a Paralympic athlete, and you guys can only imagine the kind of looks we get, or the kind of crazy thoughts people get when they see my fiance, who's in a wheelchair, and a girl with no legs walking together, and he's holding the door for me, and I'm walking and we're going to date night for dinner. And then this person looks back and like, oh, good for you. That is so sweet. Good for you guys for being out. And then Aaron's like, Oksana, leave it. Because no, that was a fuse. I don't know if you guys seen the Inside Out, the movie, and
Yeah.
it's like the angry one. I'm that angry one. All of my emotions are just pure anger when it comes to comments like that.
Because it's patronizing. It's patronizing.
It is. Yeah. And I was like, well, as opposed to what? Like, why should I stop? And I get there are some people that for them, it's hard. Everyone has a journey that's going to be their timeline to get to where I am now, being okay walking out and being seen. But it's look at me as a human first. Don't look at me and think, oh, there's a girl with no legs first. I love coffee. I am planning a wedding. I love sports. I don't like the cycling tan lines at all. Like I like just all these like I'm so normal. And because I have my physical appearance is so different, it's not any different from someone if you have curly hair or straight hair, blonde hair, brown hair, gray, whatever skin color, language you are, glasses. Like, why does prosthetics and wheelchairs and canes have to all of a sudden be that, oh my gosh, that's too different kind of thing? And like I think it's going to be different for everyone. I think learn how like people can like read the situation, see how the vibe that individual athlete with a disability has maybe, but it's okay to ask questions, just genuine questions. But do not automatically assume I'm in the military and come up to me and thank me for my service.
Oh, people do
That's
that.
probably a cringe moment because, and do you know what they do afterwards? They're like, oh, thank you for your service. Are you in the military? And I say no. And they're like, oh, okay. And walk away. And I've literally screamed out, but I still have no legs. Like, dude, like.
I mean, that's bizarre. Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine the stories you have.
But that's a good point. It's a human being first. If you lead with this is a human being first, then everything else will come. So yeah. I just liked how you put that on your page. I'm a coffee drinker. I'm a world track. You mentioned all these other things, and yes, you're also a Paralympian. That's just a part
Who
of who
just
you are.
so happens to have
Exciting.
17 medals.
That's so crazy. I forgot that because of the whole Winter Games. But yeah, like I think it's the more normal, the more society shows and includes people in wheelchairs and prosthetics and shows the Paralympics alongside to the Olympics, it's going to become more normal. We're going to start seeing it more and more and more. And it's so important for the next generation of young kids for them to see all walks of life be represented and seen in the same light as successful businessmen, athletes, all these different areas. So it becomes more normal for them. It's going to be a generational change, and we start by now.
That's amazing. And you're one of the main ambassadors. It's so cool to see what you do and just reading up on you. And it's just, you are remarkable in all that you do, and you are inspiring the next generation in every way. Tell us what you're going to do in Paris. What are you bringing home with you? What are your goals? If you look up like the top 10 athletes to notice or to look at, you're on the list for your event. So what do you think you're going to do? You're going to bring home more medal?
That's the goal. That is the goal. I hope I can bring back 2 very shiny yellow-esque gold medals, golden-esque medals. If not, I just want like a medal. I would be so proud. I think, even though this is my 7th Paralympic Games, the one thing I never really had going into the other ones is being so proud of myself and feeling like I truly belong and deserve being on that start line. And having the guts to just race with like, just fearlessly, just believe in your training and just make those attacks. Be that one to push the pace, be uncomfortable to make everyone else be uncomfortable. But also, like, I do want those medals because I made a promise to myself if I can, especially, and because Chanel bags got so expensive, now it's just to a gold medal. If I get a gold medal, I'm going to buy my first Chanel bag because you can only buy it in Paris.
I love that. That's awesome. That is awesome. That's very incentivizing.
Oksana,
Yes.
it is such a pleasure to talk to you. We were very excited to do so. We've been reading up on you for the past week or so. So we're excited, and you have exceeded all expectations. You are an absolute hoot. And just as normal as anything. Like you said, folks, it's okay. She's a human being first. But I think...
Yeah, I'm just over caffeinated is all. So
Oh, wait, when's the wedding, by the way?
that's a good question. Ask Aaron. That should be the next.
Oh, okay.
It took him, you guys, don't ever do this to your partners, but it took him 8 years and 3 months to propose to me.
How many days? 8 years, 3 months, and no.
It was 3 weeks, and I think it was like around like 6 days, 5 days. But literally,
who's
I started
counting?
introducing him as, this is Aaron. No, he's not my fiance. My boyfriend still. We've been dating for 8 years and 3 months. Like,
That's amazing. I love that.
But you saw the racer, the runner in the Olympics. She finished the race. She got fourth, but she went over to the stands and proposed herself.
After 9 years of dating.
It was 9 years. So hey, don't be so hard on Aaron.
no, don't you dare back him up. No.
I'm just saying it could have been worse. Is all.
We were dating for that, but we were together, and I've known him more than that. So.
Oh. Well, good luck. Give him our best, and at least tell him I'm rooting for him. But dear lady, congratulations. We will be watching you for sure in Paris. It's an absolute pleasure talking to you, and good luck. And we absolutely want to talk to you down the road. All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Oksana. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Then, folks,